Okay.
Okay. All right. Can everyone see their screen? Yay. Um, all right. I'm going to go ahead and start. Thank you. First of all, thank you everyone for being here. We have today is our non-congregate summer debrief, and I hope that this is an informative meeting because the goal is to share information from rural non-congregate sponsors and glean that information. Oh, their tips and tricks, sorry, going ahead, of how their operations went this summer. And we've also encouraged sponsors that did not operate rural non-congregate to join this meeting, so you can learn best practices and things to avoid, and ways you can incorporate rural non-congregate into your communities. And that's, we're hoping that sponsors that were eligible but did not opt in get enough information from this meeting to think about expanding their operations for next year. And then we, as the summer food team, are going to utilize the information that we gathered today as a tool to improve rural non-congregate operations for summer 2025. As you know, this is the first year that Idaho has participated in rural non-congregate feeding. And a big thank you to all the sponsors that signed up for summer 2024, because you went through a lot: integrity plans, planning, things going awry and things going well, in order to gather some of these best practices to help sponsors that may have been hesitant for various reasons to operate this summer. So moving forward, we hope that this information helps you as you plan for next summer. Okay, today's agenda, it's not huge. This is not a big PowerPoint presentation. It's really meant to have conversation about things that sponsors went through and what they learned from that. So it's not going to be 87 slides. It's just really more of a conversation and sharing out. So really, we have a lot of time slated for this meeting, but how much time it will take will depend on the interaction from you as the participants. So get your questions ready. And this is the agenda that we're going through. Is we're going to do a quick rural non-congregate overview, how Idaho or the nation came into being eligible to provide these meals, which meal service models were most ideal for sponsors that operated. And while not all the claims have been submitted, we still have several July and August claims that have not been submitted for the summer. We will provide a rough comparison of meals served in 2023 compared to meals served in 2024. And last but not least, Angie Branch from Gooding Schools has volunteered to present on their rural non-congregate operations this summer, sharing best practices and lessons learned. Thank you, Angie. And as a reminder, we'd like for you to either drop questions in the chat, raise your hand to share, or just unmute yourself to comment during the presentation, because our goal is to answer questions that you have from sponsors that have been through this and can tell you from experience what happened this last summer and what to expect. Okay.
Dominique, could you keep talking for a minute? Because I had a little technical difficulty.
Sure, I'll stop. Just read the slide.
Keep going, keep going.
Are you working?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm not ready to share quite yet, so keep.
Oh, well, you're later, so you're
good.
okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, we'll put you in the last.
You're
Okay. Hold on. Let me get this. Okay, so as all of you know, one of the goals of summer feeding is to fight childhood hunger during the summer months. And for the majority of you that are school food authorities that operate the NSLP, you know from experience how many children participate in the USDA's school breakfast and lunch programs during the school year, and how many children participate during summer food programs. Roughly 1 in 6 kids who eat free and reduced price meals participate in the summer meal program. We all know food insecurity can have huge long-term impacts on academic achievement and mental and physical health. And our statistics in Idaho, we have about 8.6% children that have experienced food insecurity. This is what we've been trying to combat in the summer food program. And that's something that up until 2023 we've had barriers because of the congregate meal service requirement. The goal across these programs is to break down these barriers and connect children to high quality meals during the summer to help them grow. So how does the rural non-congregate meal service break down these barriers? Dun, dun, dun. Consolidated Appropriations Act 2023. This act was created to help improve access to meals for children located in rural areas. Now, it established the rural non-congregate meal service option. Idaho is not participating in the summer electronics benefit transfer program, but we are participating in the rural non-congregate program. And that's something that was new to Idaho in 2024. And we are going to briefly discuss what some of those options are through this act. Maybe. Okay. So the following meal flexibilities that were established for the rural non-congregate are daily non-congregate meal service, multi-day meal service, bulk distribution, home delivery, and conditional non-congregate meal service. We are going to cover the first 3 in pretty good detail. We're not going to cover home delivery and conditional non-congregate meal service today because we did not have any sponsors that utilized this. I have a few slides that detail what is required for those meal service styles, but we have no information on how it may have looked this summer. So we're going to just briefly brush over these and know that if you are interested in this type of meal service, it will be covered in the 2025 rural non-congregate training. Okay, the first one is daily non-congregate meal service. There we go. And that's for sites that operate every day of their operation as non-congregate. For example, you provide meals Monday through Friday. It's usually a brick and mortar site, but it can be at a park site. It's like the most similar to congregate meal sites, except that children can pick up the meals and leave. And now that's one at a time for non-congregate. We had sponsors that operated at park sites and school sites that provided breakfast at, say, in the morning. The children picked up their meals and left, and then they could come back in the afternoon and pick up their meals for lunch and take them off-site. As a state agency, what we did this summer was we went around to all of the sponsors that were operating multi-day and bulk meal distribution services, not specifically just non-congregate meal services, but we provided technical assistance visits to see how their operations worked. One of the reasons that some of the sponsors that operated non-congregate meal service for separate meals, such as breakfast at 10, and then the children could come back at noon and pick up their meal and leave, is because they weren't comfortable with operating more than one meal service as non-congregate, and that had to do with their integrity plan on how they were going to operate that site. So they opted, it's more of the hesitant approach of just letting the children come pick up their meals and take them away. What we did see is that a lot of the kids that picked up the meals sat and ate the meals on site. So while they weren't required to do so, that a lot of them did stay at the parks or the school sites and eat their meals. So that's the daily non-congregate meal service. let's see. Okay. Multi-day meal service is another flexibility. This is a way for sponsors to distribute up to the allowable number of reimbursable meals that can be provided over a 10-day calendar period. For example, the site distributes meals on Mondays for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So they had multiple days of meals in one distribution point. This meal type was really utilized in summer. There's some pros and cons, a lot of planning, but it was a really good way for sponsors that had maybe limited site staff. They could have staff work for 2 days preparing the meals and then 1 day distributing the meals. Because they weren't accruing all that labor and time for a 5-day meal distribution, they could have paid their staff a higher wage for those 2 days. And it's a win-win situation because the staff make more money, but they also get a little summer break, which is something that we've seen across the state. Some sponsors really just want to have a summer break, and having that multi-day meal service distribution model enables sponsors to provide the meals for families during the week, but only requiring the labor for 1 or 2 days. And just as a reminder, this multi-day meal service is not bulk distribution. Bulk distribution is when you provide, say, a gallon of milk with your weekly distribution of meals. Now, self-prep sponsors that are approved to operate non-congregate can provide bulk foods that meet the meal pattern requirements, but it's not allowable for vended sponsors. So that's something moving forward. If you vend your meals from a company, bulk distribution is not an option. One thing we did see this summer was a combination of multi-day and bulk meal distribution, meaning they provided burritos and sandwiches and the main entree, but for the week's daily meal service. But then they would give them a gallon of milk and say a 2-pound bag of carrots or something that they could provide in bulk to reduce the amount of plastic bags, portioning, labor that was needed to get these meals put together. So, with the bulk distribution rules, the flexibility, some of those rules were, you had to indicate that you wanted to provide this meal service, and you had to provide menus that demonstrated all of the meal components and serving sizes for each meal were provided, and that includes providing this information to the participants with heating instruction, food safety precautions, food storage needs, and anything else, any other pertinent information. And that's something that we saw a lot of really good use for this summer, was some of those menus that were provided to the participants as they gave these bulk meals out. Are there any questions? Oh, let me go back. Any questions on these distributions at the moment? Oh, I see a chat.
I put your handout in there.
What? Oh, thank you. Okay, so Kat did, oh, let me go back. Sorry, whoa, just a moment. Some sponsors provided their menus in electronic format and some sponsors had paper format. And in the chat, I wanted to share Murtaugh School District. That was my first technical assistance visit. They had a paper menu that was extremely detailed and showed what meal components were for which meals, what the serving size was, what the heating instructions were. And that's something Kat dropped into the chat because I wanted you to see an example of the paper version. You know your communities, whether electronic information is going to be best, or if it's smaller towns and they want to have paper. But this is an example of a really, really thoughtful and detailed menu plan. As I mentioned, home delivery, we had no sponsors operate home delivery. For many reasons, we don't have a lot of information on it. We've heard from other states that it's been helpful, but it's not something we've had any sponsors show interest in 2024. It is an option for 2025, and we would like sponsors to think about how they would identify that need and how they would meet that need if they decided to do home delivery. It is a little more complicated than some of the other meal service options because you need to have written consent from the parent. You have to identify the households and you have to have a memorandum of understanding if you are going to receive data from the school district on those families. So again, an option, but not something that we have any experience with this summer. So we're going to skip over that one. And the next one is conditional non-congregate meal service. This was not utilized by any sponsors, but the intent of this one is that if you have a needy population of children and you have a service, a meal site that is not located in an eligible area. If you remember, summer feeding sites have to be physically located in an area in which poor economic conditions exist. We do know that a lot of sponsors are losing their eligibility because the school free and reduced numbers are going down. We hope that with the new direct certification utilizing Medicare or Medicaid, sorry, that will help increase these numbers and get them back to where sponsors can continue operating their sites. But we all acknowledge that the population increase in the last 4 years in Idaho has really diminished those eligibility numbers. So there's hope on the horizon that the DC with Medicaid expansion will help get these numbers back up. But for those sponsors that have sites that are not eligible, the conditional non-congregate meal service is an option. It is more complicated because you are only eligible to serve children that meet the qualifications of free and reduced meals, and you have to have a funding source to pay for the meals for those children that are not eligible. Again, this will be covered in summer 2025 training. I just wanted to show it as one of the options that are available under the Appropriations Act. Okay, offer versus serve. I don't believe I had any sponsors that utilized offer versus serve during rural non-congregate. However, it is an option for school food authorities only. If anybody did utilize that I did not see, we would love to hear from you because that is an interesting way to save food, but I'm not sure how that looks in reality. So if anyone did operate that, please let us know. Okay. Parent guardian meal pickup is another option. This was widely utilized and also varied. It's available, it allows parents or guardians to pick up meals on behalf of eligible children. However, the sponsors that elected to use this have to have documented procedures in place to ensure meals are only distributed to parents or guardians of eligible children, and that duplicate meals are not distributed to any child. This is something that we saw really differing operations this summer. Older siblings, neighbors, and teachers or daycare providers, they're not considered guardians, so they cannot pick up meals. And we use Idaho's definition of guardian is a person who looks after and is legally responsible for someone who is unable to manage their own affairs. This got a little tricky for some sponsors, and I'd like to have a little discussion and open up the floor to sponsors to see what were some obstacles or best practices experienced by sponsors using the parent guardian pickup. Some sponsors would not allow meals to be picked up without children. They had to be there. Some did if they signed an attestation. For those of you that did require children to be present, did you experience any pushback from the community? So I'd like to open up the floor to anybody that would share their experiences on this one. No? It all went swimmingly for you? And the 3-second pause. Okay, we'll move on. We'll have this later.
Dominique, if someone isn't able to speak, if they're having technical problems, they can put it in the chat and then I can tell you what it says.
Yes, please do. If you put in the chat, if you can't get your speakers to work. Please. Thank you, Kat. One of the requirements from these non-congregate meal service is preventing meal duplication. We saw a lot of different plans from sponsors. Some sponsors had it fairly easy because they were the only meal service site in town. One sponsor had different colored bags for each site. We heard from another sponsor that had a stamp, a different colored and different shaped stamp that they would put on the participant's hand when they picked up the meals, so they could see if they had gone to another site. And others just have parents or children sign an attestation that they're not going to go to other sites and pick up meals. This is fairly open on the requirements. You have to have a method for preventing it. People had different ideas, and how successful it was, I don't know yet. But there were a lot of different options out there. And that's one thing that we want you to think about is your community size. And how, if you are going to operate in proximity to another sponsor, or you're going to have multiple sites in your town, ways that you can prevent this. And we want to make it easy on you. It's not going to be the same for everyone, but that's something that was a bit of a challenge this summer. You can only do so much, right? If people want to honestly take advantage of the system, they'll probably put more thought into it than you are in preventing it. And that's not something we hold you accountable for, but we ask that you think about what's the best way to prevent this in your community. Okay, ideal meal service operations. We'd like to hear from you on what meal service style worked best for you in your communities, and what are your key takeaways for the different meal service styles. Was there a combination of meal service styles that worked for you best, or one that you found did not work for you? So opening the chat, or unmute if you have something to share on this. No? Oh, a chat. Okay. All right. What is this? Do you see the chat, Cat? Oh. Well, I said. it
Sounds
says I
like
found
Sam I am.
another-
Yes.
What'd you say?
It sounded like Sam I am. Do you have the chat, Cat?
You have the chat, Cat.
It says
That's
I
one-
found I should have done the rural with me being a new director.
And that's fine, but also we give kudos to the new directors that decided not to operate rural non-congregate, because as we all know, these programs are complicated. They are not similar enough among the different child nutrition programs to make it easy to say, oh, I have this. It takes a lot of time to wrap your head around the programs. And so if for sponsors that exercised caution and did not opt in this year because they were new, had new staff, had new limited staff, we don't blame you, and we think that's great, because that shows you are committed to upholding the integrity of the program. And that's one of the major goals of this, providing the meals and upholding program integrity. So this meeting and moving forward is to help you prepare, if you want to do this meal service in the future, have the tools and experience from other sponsors to move forward and know that you're going to be successful. Just a moment.
And the next person said it was new for us this year, trying to figure it all out. And then the next comment says, my participation was not very good. I only had 3 students that ate, and the other were just summer school.
Well, that's something, we had I saw a few sites that didn't have a lot of participation, but that's one of the key aspects of these programs is having that community buy-in and letting them know. One thing we did see was the first day of non-congregate, people came and picked up meals, and then word of mouth, people would talk about it and then share that, oh, hey, this is, we're able to pick up our meals here. And that word of mouth and sharing that information out helped. The next week's meal distribution was bigger and the next week was bigger. But it's really, that's a key part, is communicating with your parents and your school district and the kids and getting the information out there that that is your plan. A lot of sponsors conducted surveys of the desire and the need in their communities and just had that open communication with the community members to let them know what was available. And that's a key, that's really important as you plan ahead, is making sure you're involving the community, and that they know where the meals can be accessed. But great point.
That's all we have in the chat.
Okay, so now on to the super fun stuff. Oh, this is so exciting. We're going to do the sponsors that operated and how many sites in 2024. So this summer we had 22 sponsors that operated rural non-congregate meal service. And of those sponsors, 22, we had 76 non-congregate meal sites. That is great for our first year, and we look to expand moving forward, but that was a really great start for the first year in Idaho. And drum roll, please. Da-da-da-da-da-da. All right, look at these meals. So this is a comparison between 23 and 24. The information is current as of today, and there are claims that have not yet been submitted for July and August. And this is total meals served, because we do not have the software to separate rural non-congregate from congregate meal service reports yet. We're working on it. But look at the increase in breakfast meals. It's over 100,000 more breakfast meals in 2024 than 2023. And that is amazing, mostly because sponsors operated, they would serve lunch and then breakfast for the next day, or breakfast and lunch together. And that breakfast participation is historically been a little lower than lunch. Lunch is the biggest meal service in summer, but having the flexibility of providing breakfast and lunch together, either at one day or during the week, is huge. And you can see, while these numbers aren't final, it's the largest increase in meals served. In fact, you all know our famous Melissa Cook, who reports and submits your claims. We got an email from the FNS office because our report, the breakfast meal service in July was 3 times higher than July of last year. And the question to Melissa was, is this an error? And the answer is no. It is because rural non-congregate feeding has impacted that many children in one summer. And that is why we're here, and it is amazing. And it's also, for sponsors, those meals, that equates to more money. And we know summer has not had, it's not a moneymaker. It's not meant to be a for-profit program, but this means you're reaching the children and the meals are being provided to kids that need them. And you're also receiving more reimbursement, which will allow you to grow your program. And that's something that labor has always been an issue. But just remember, this increased reimbursement also equates to increased money for your program. And think of the ways, what can you do to with that increased reimbursement in rural non-congregate meal service? How can you utilize that to improve your program, expand your reach? One thing that I was at a conference in February, and some sponsors that had operated this rural non-congregate. One of the obstacles in summer, and this happens in Idaho, is the school staff want to take summer break. They don't want to work all summer. So some sponsors don't operate at all. One of the solutions to this is having that multi-day or bulk meal distribution. So for example, you serve meals on, let's say you prepare them on Monday and you serve them on Tuesday. And those meals are for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You can go into the weekend if you want. But that is 5 or 7 days of meals you're distributing with 2 days of labor. So that 2 days of labor, you can pay your staff more, so they're making money, but they're also getting that vacation. They don't work 5 days a week during summer. So this can benefit your operations as well as impacting the communities. And that's something we want you to think about moving forward, because they are receiving more money. You can get staff that will work for a few days and pay them more because you're not paying them out for every single day. So good job, sponsors. I love this slide, but we are moving on. Now, I'm going to hand the meeting over to one of our rural non-congregate meal service providers, and that is Angie Branch from Gooding School District. She was kind enough to present on her experience this summer. And so without further ado, hello, Angie. You want to take over?
Okay, let me share my screen. Oh wait, host, you gotta let me share. The host isn't allowing multiple presenters, so you gotta quit sharing yours, I think.
Yeah, I'm done. Sorry. There you go.
Okay. Let me get there. It takes me a hot minute usually. Can you see that? Does that look okay?
There you go.
Yeah, we're good?
Yeah.
Looks
Okay.
good.
All right. How are you? I don't know if we're that great, but I can share what worked for us. So our mission was to increase access to summer meals by offering a variety of service options. We provided convenient daily parent pickup at meal sites and multi-day distribution sites, offering 5-day meal kits. This approach was designed to reach more children who usually have limited access to summer meals, ensuring that they receive the essential nutrition that they needed during summer break. In June, we implemented 2 distinct service models. We were doing congregate service for summer school and non-congregate service at all mobile pickup sites. So within the city limits, we operated multiple non-congregate locations every day, while also offering multi-day pickup sites outside the city limits. And for a short period of time, we serviced 3 out of the 4 communities in our county. And then we continued forward with just another community outside our county. The non-congregate sites they opened in June and they continued to operate through July and into the first 2 days of August. And due to most school nutrition staff opting out of working in the summer, we hired high school students to help fill the labor gap in order to provide the service to our community. What's that?
I just have a quick question on that. For your daily non-congregate, did you provide just breakfast and lunch, or did you provide breakfast and lunch, more than one meal at those daily non-congregate sites?
The daily non-congregates, we would offer lunch for the current day and breakfast for the following day.
Thank you.
So I don't even know what slide I'm on. So to market our new meal service, we utilize social media, our school website, and newsletters. And then we created and posted weekly picture menus online. We did extensive community education before we ever operated and during the initial weeks to ensure program compliance. And families were encouraged to pre-register before service began, specifying their preferred site and listing all children 1 to 18 in their household. And we did this through a Google survey that my assistant Erica set up. And the pre-registration allowed us to prepare roster forms and estimate the attendance at each site, we really did not know what to expect. So we needed to facilitate efficient and accountable meal distribution. But we did expect many families would show up unannounced. So families who arrived without prior registration were added to our Google Doc rosters. We took their names at the site they were at, which were updated weekly and sometimes even daily, because as the program moved on day by day, we would just get more messages, more phone calls, more emails about how people could sign up. Each site maintained electronic rosters with student names and service dates, helping prevent the duplicated meals, and allowed our staff to see real-time participant information. Children were only permitted to visit one site per day, and families with children in summer school were not allowed to pick up additional meals during that time. So after our summer school ended, that ran during the month of June. After summer school ended, we did have families say, can you increase my family number to 5 because instead of 4, because my child is now done with summer school. So we used enrollment lists from summer school to cross-reference with our rosters and avoid the duplication. And then our families we're lucky we're from a small community. So our families communicated really well with our site staff about site changes. If they were typically visiting like our library site, but then they decided one of the park sites was more convenient for them, they would let our staff know, and we would move those names from one roster to the other. And then they were really good about telling us any days that they would not be attending, so we wouldn't be packing meals for them. We even had a few families from neighboring communities that were not operating a summer feeding program accessing our 5-day meal pickup sites. So that was pretty exciting. There was a significant amount of behind the scenes work that was required to make the program successful, and we relied on careful advanced planning and organization, including the use of production notes to keep staff informed about upcoming tasks. And it was much more than just managing production records and menus, and involved a comprehensive strategy to ensure everything ran smoothly. So every week I would write out this detailed list and send it to my leaders in the summer program. Page 1 lists all the multi-meal sites with the number of families and children and how much produce would be required for each child for that week. Page 2 lists all the items for the multi-day meal kits that needed to be sent. So everything that needed to be packed in the boxes on Monday morning and Tuesday morning, everything that was going into those boxes was listed on page 2. On page 3, we would put a side work list of all the things that needed to be done for the week, and sometimes things that needed to be done for the next week, along with what to pack at the daily meal sites. So remember, we have 5-day meal sites going out once a week, or meal kits going out once a week, and then the daily meal sites. And then on the last page, it would be a glimpse of what was happening the upcoming week, so they could start getting ready and things prepackaged for the following week. So our vision was to make a meaningful impact on our community, and I think we achieved that goal. The support and feedback we received was overwhelmingly positive. Many parents and community members shared how much the program was benefiting their families, and that was pretty rewarding in itself. And it reaffirmed that all the hard work we do was worth it, and the effort that it was taking was it was all worth it. So we did experience a huge amount of growth over the course of the summer. Our 5-day meal service, we started the summer with like 33 families picking up the 5-day meal kits, and by the end of our program, we were up to 108 families accessing that service. So it was crazy. It was this parent, Trisha Adams, she shared on Facebook, and there was a lot of positive response, and that's just a picture of the food she had picked up each day. She accessed the daily meal sites and had like 5 kids. So overall, our integrity plan was effective, but there's one key improvement we would make. Using bulk food options for multi-day meal service from the start We did not start doing that at the beginning. We were packaging individual portions of fruit and vegetables. And then families had a huge amount, a half pint milk. I think moving forward, we would look at doing milk by the gallon or shelf stable milk. It's much simpler for families to carry gallons of milk than 50 half pint containers. We're looking at offering juice by the gallon rather than multiple cartons. And then we had switched up our integrity plan so we could do the bulk foods where we could send out cartons or, 1 pound, 2 pound cartons of strawberries rather than individually packing them. And in the end, the amount of time it takes to package meals, it actually saved on labor costs and made us a more efficient operation. We initially provided multi-day meal distribution at some sites on Mondays and others on Tuesdays, but going forward, we're going to change this up and do the multi-day meal pickups on Tuesday and Wednesdays rather than Mondays, because Monday morning it was a lot to try to get everything packed and get to all our sites and stay within all the time constraints that we had to get to all the service. We took meals out using our food truck. So our food truck, like on a Monday morning at 9 o'clock, it would be out north of town at a site. 30 minutes later, it'd be at another out of town site. Then it would have to come back to the school, reload, go to the daily meal site at the library, the daily meal site at the trailer park, come back to the school, reload, go out south of town and access a 5-day meal site, and then 3 daily meal sites. So our truck never stopped, and it was really hard to keep up on a Monday morning. So we think that by allowing us Monday to kind of get our boxes completely put together and built before we're going out to deliver, will work better for us. We discovered that on the days that we did pack put the multi-day packs together to send out to the families, we needed additional site to help keep up with the daily meal service packaging. So we have put together a standard operating procedure for next year that will divide our team into 2 groups. One group will be used only for multi-day sites, and the other group will focus on the daily meal sites. But at the end of the day, the fulfillment of knowing we were feeding hungry kids was super rewarding. The significant boost in our revenue was a great advantage. Our increased fund balance allows us to offer more creative options within our program to maintain a healthy bottom line. And I'm not going to lie, I about fell out of my chair when I saw how much revenue we actually generated from expanding our summer program. Our revenue grew over 395%, nearly quadrupling the amount from the previous year. And we saw a 455% increase in the number of meals served. We served 43,073 more meals compared to the previous year. So that was pretty impressive. I was talking to Erica earlier today, like looking at our breakfast, we served 1,825 meals at breakfast last year and over 27,000 this year. So that was mind blowing to me. So I like the idea that we can serve breakfast and lunch and make it convenient for families to pick up. So some of our best practices involved providing kitchen staff with the detailed production notes for both the current and upcoming weeks to ensure they were clear on their tasks. We prepared in advance for multi-day meals. We trained our team on setting up packing stations. We sent food to families in cooler bags at multi-day sites. And moving forward, we'll stay flexible by adapting and refining our processes based on the feedback that we receive and the evolving needs of our program. So in the first picture, you can see Ziploc bags, frozen, dry, and fridge. So those are the bags that we're putting together the week before. The week before we're packing, we're making deli sandwiches, we're packaging them. And then for every child, we have a meal kit, and we put the frozen food in the Ziploc and we put it back in the freezer. And then on the day that we're actually putting the cooler bags together, we just bring all that stuff up, we set it out, and then we can just quickly grab and put it in the boxes, because packing 108 family meal kits takes time. So we needed to do everything we could to stay ahead and make it, work for us. There was no way we could grab one item at a time and get everything pushed out at the time and keep within the time frame we needed. So that is our summer program in a nutshell. We loved it. We had a huge amount of sites. We operated a lot. We just did a lot, but it was awesome and it was worth it. So a lot of work on the back end, a lot of work on getting it together, but I think moving forward next year, it'll be so much easier. We learned a lot, and for just kind of winging it and figuring it out as we go, I think we have a good process in place moving forward. So thanks for letting me share. Are there any questions?
No, they just said, thank you so very much, Angie. And then they said, incredible.
Thanks. Have a good team.
It was fabulous. I really enjoyed going with Dominique to see it. It was great.
Thank you.
Dominique, are you there? Her audio is not working. One moment, please. So, having technical difficulties.
Well, we could just chat for a moment, Kat.
Yeah, I don't have her slides or anything, so I'm really kind of stuck here.
Heather, I want to hear what Heather Plain did, because she always does good things. Do you want to share anything, Heather? I want to hear all the good things.
Well, and it might take longer than what we have time for. So we are growing our team, and we wanted to be on the sidelines this year and see like the great things that we knew Angie would do. So we didn't do non-congregate, but we have 2 sites that would qualify. So it's very limited what's available to us. And I did not have staffing, and I appreciated the suggestion of high school students.
Honestly, we've been using high school students for years because for that very reason, and we've had quite a few students that have remained. Like, that's a perfect high school job because it's Monday through Thursday and they're off on the weekends, and it has good hours. And so we really rely heavily on our students, but we are requiring our kitchen managers to work a portion of the summer program. So there's always one of our kitchen managers during operation. And mostly we made that decision because it was a lot on our central office team to be all the places we needed to be and do all the things we needed to do. So, and it was well received. They embraced it. So that's good.
That is good. Great job, Ange.
Thanks. Maybe somebody else has a burning desire to share while Dominique gets ready.
Yes, I still don't have connection with her. Anybody else want to share what you did and how it went? Thank you, Heather.
I thought I stopped sharing screen. My screen shouldn't be shared anymore, Dominique.
Yeah, I don't see, it's
I'm
not
gonna,
Angie's
I'm gonna
screen.
just leave and come back in and maybe that will help. Oh, she said, okay.
Just call in, Dominique.
I want to hear from Kendra in Moscow too, because she shared a lot on social media and it looked like she was doing cool things too. I'd be interested to hear about her program.
Nobody wants to share? Sorry, this is happening. I don't have access to the information, so hopefully she's gonna call in. Dominique, are you back?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear
Oh my
you.
goodness, so sorry. Well, okay, that was successful. Okay, thank you so much for your patience, and Angie, thank you very much for sharing. That was amazing. Um,
And while you were away, Heather Plain also shared.
I heard her, I just couldn't be seen. So thanks, for sharing. And I hope that you sponsors got some good ideas on how to operate, or moving forward, how you can operate these programs. I did have one question for Angie, and it was on your last slide. On that slide with the blue, you had all your food components in those blue refrigerated bags, but you had a number.
We had a number on the outside of them. So the number was the number of students in the household.
Okay, and
Yeah.
did that help you?
Yes, because when we were packing, we set our packing team up. We would go through, we would put like all the number ones. And then the people that were packing those bags knew, okay, that's just one child. We're going to put this bag in. Or if it was 4, then they knew to put 4 bags in. We started out originally doing our Ziploc bags with like 5 PBJs and 5, like for a family of 5 PBJs, 5 sandwiches. But we found that that was just too much on people's brains. So when we started just breaking those packs down into single serving units, so, it was a lot faster for our packing team because they didn't have to like search through and say, okay, I got a family of 5. I gotta find the box that has all the 5 family. When we did it in single servings for the week for each student, we could just go through and grab and how many Ziplocs we needed for each child. Does that make sense? Makes
Oh,
sense
yeah.
in my head. It doesn't always make sense when it comes out of my mouth.
No, that's good because what we saw this summer was a lot of sponsors. You started with your integrity plan and said, okay, we're going to use Google Docs. Well, I went to some sites and they said, oh, that didn't work at all. But how your plans, because it's sort of like operating a budget for the first time. It's a plan on how you think you're going to operate. Then you get into the weeds and start operating and realize, well, this doesn't work, or this works, or what about this? And so how that evolves from the beginning of your program operations to the end, what were some of the biggest changes that you saw that you needed to make based on actually experiencing the rural non-congregate meal service?
I think the biggest was how we were packing the meals as individual units. And then pre-prepping foods for our multi-day meal kits the week before, like getting the Ziploc bags filled the day before, rather than coming in on Monday morning and trying to gather all of our things together. It just because it took time, and as we got more families on accessing that service, there wasn't enough hours in the day to make it out to the sites the time we were supposed to be there, and be just going through a box of PBJs and taking one out, counting 5 and putting them in the cooler, and 5 sandwiches. It was just much faster to have everything pre-done the week before. And then they would package the freezer kits, put them back in the freezer. Monday morning, we'd pull them out. They'd package the dry stored kits and have them ready on Monday. And then same with the cooler. So that was probably the biggest change that we had from the beginning to the end. And then figuring out that it worked better if we split our staff on site into two groups to do the production. Like one group focusing on the 5-day meal kits and one group focusing on the daily packaging. But we didn't send every staff member out on site to deliver meals. We kept some staff back, and the ones that stayed back behind, they were the ones that were preparing produce, were making deli sandwiches and pre-packaging items that needed to be packed into the Ziplocs that would go into the coolers. So production never stopped. I don't know what else we did. I don't know. Give me another question.
Okay, I have one more. What about, how did you conduct your point of service meal counts for multi-day and bulk? Because I do know while we had the meal counter option, it was not set up for rural non-congregate meals, which is going to be set up for summer 2025. But the company did not have the setups for rural non-congregate and bulk and multi-day meal distribution. So how did you handle that at all your sites? Were they all the same? Were they different?
All of our sites ran the same, with the exception of summer school. Summer school, we just used the daily meal checkoff sheets. But for all of our other sites, we used Google Docs and used electronic rosters, and then added families to those rosters as we went on, except for Bliss. We provided meals for Bliss, and their site supervisor would email a list of the names of every student or every child that visited that site. And so that we did Bliss a little differently because they were a different community. And it was easier for her to just send us the list of names of the people that ate each day or each for the week, that week. Everywhere else, we just used the Google Docs and electronic rosters. And we did a lot of cross-referencing to make sure that we weren't duplicating. When people would move from site to site, the rosters were updated. And every person that was running a point of service could see the Google Doc, like who was accessing which sites. So we would just highlight the names in a different color, and it was a quick reference.
Okay, it is complicated, but it sounds like you had some good plans in place. Does anybody else have any comments on how they did
I
their
would
meal
just
counts?
add, our system wouldn't be good and in place as far as that goes without Erica, because Erica really was the brainchild behind all of that.
Go, Erica. And I know that every sponsor has a different way of operating these meal services, but that's very helpful information. I want to thank you very much for sharing your experience, because we do know that the integrity piece and getting up for summer was a lot more work for sponsors. But as Angie pointed out, the reimbursement, which is great to have that money in your program so you can expand your programs, but really what it means is that many more children receive the nutritious meals in the summer, and that is what summer has been trying to combat for years, to match those numbers of children. We know how many children receive meals at school during the school year, but having that increase is just really demonstrative of the impact that you're making on your communities. And that's hopefully one of the takeaways as you're crying at all of the work that you have to put into it, when you see the community support and that the needs are actually being met, that helps give you a little bit of sense of that it's worth it, because we really are seeing this all across the state. And again, thank you, Angie, very much for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, I'm going to try and share. It's really the last screen. Screen one, share. All right, are you seeing my screen?
Yes, put it onto the presentation, the slideshow.
I'm trying. Oh my, hold the phone. Again, I apologize. Boy, tomorrow's gonna be so smooth. Okay, let's go. All right, then we're gonna share. Zoom, share. Their screen. Okay, that was Andy's presentation.
Yes.
And really, this is the last of the video of the slides that I have, besides our non-discrimination statement. And any questions that you may have. Does anybody have any wrap-up questions they'd like to share or talk about before we head off? I know we planned for a long time on this meeting today, but we're happily going to give you some time back to get back to your other duties. But does anybody else have any final statements they'd like to add before we finish this hopefully helpful meeting?
We have nothing in the chat either.
Okay, well, in that case, unless anyone has anything else, I will give you back 2 more hours of your day. And we have this recorded. Tomorrow, we're having another debrief meeting, and Katie Rogers from Minidoka will be presenting on her operation. So if you want to sign up for that and join that to see what Katie has to share, great. Otherwise, we are recording both of these and we will have them available at some point in the future once we have made them compliant and finalized all of that fun stuff. So again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kat, for co-hosting and taking control of this webinar today. And thanks for your time, everyone. Appreciate everything that you do. And I wish you all a fabulous Thursday. And for those of you who don't have school on Friday, a very long weekend.
Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone. Bye.